Kore Mafenduka and welcome to Africa Good Morning, the show that keeps you up to date with the latest news in Africa and beyond. I am Glenora Shipura. Getting into what you can expect in the broadcast. In Mali, nearly 50 Wagner fighters killed in an ambush. China and 26 African countries agreed to strengthen partnerships in digital field, and Venezuelans clash with police after disputed election results. We'll also be talking to Ari Hohat, who will be filling us in on the latest news in South Africa. Do stay tuned for this and more on Africa Good Morning.
Neopaints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neopaints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neopaints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Getting into our top stories, dozens of Wagner mercenaries were killed by jihadis and rebels over the weekend in northern Mali in what one analyst described on Monday as the largest battleground blow to the shadowy Russian group in years. At least 2 others were taken captive. Approximately 50 Wagner fighters in a convoy were killed in an Al-Qaeda ambush, which was joined by rebels who were in pursuit along the border with Algeria, said Wasim Nassar, a Sahel specialist and a senior research fellow at the Southern Center, a security think tank, who said he counted bodies in a video of the aftermath. The mercenaries had been fighting mostly Tuareg rebels alongside Mali's army when their convoy was forced to retreat into jihadi territory and ambushed south of the commune of Tin Zoutan, Nasser said. Now Wagner confirmed in a telegram statement on Monday that some of its fighters, as well as Malian troops, were killed in a battle with hundreds of militants. The mercenary group did not say how many of its fighters were killed. Excuse me. Mali's army said it lost 2 soldiers and 20 rebels were killed. In a statement over the weekend, Al-Qaeda asserted that 50 Wagner fighters were killed in its attack meant to avenge the massacres committed in the center and the north of Mali in the years-long battle against the extremists. Moving on to our next story, China and 26 African countries have agreed to strengthen partnership and boost innovation in the digital sector. African participants at the Forum on China-Africa Digital Cooperation were hosted Monday by the Chinese Ministry of Industry and Information Technology in Beijing. Senegal's Minister of Telecommunications looked forward to the changes scheduled over the next 3 years. This digital cooperation between China and Africa is win-win and will bring benefits to our countries, the African continent, and China through the setting up of innovative infrastructures, Aliwone Sall said. The parties jointly issued an action plan which includes the implementation of 10 digital transformation demonstration projects and the training of at least 1,000 professionals in the digital field. This initiative aims to strengthen partnerships in the digital policy infrastructure, cutting-edge innovation, digital transformation, security, and talent nurturing over the next 3 years. In recent years, China has struck digital cooperation deals with numerous African governments. According to the China Academy of ICTS, China's firms are involved in bolstering network infrastructure on the continent, benefiting over 900 million people. Now, security forces in Venezuela have fired tear gas and rubber bullets at people protesting Sunday's disputed election results. Thousands of people descended on central Caracas on Monday evening, some walking for miles from slums on the mountains surrounding the city towards the presidential palace. Protests erupted in the Venezuela capital the day after President Nicolas Maduro claimed victory. The opposition has disputed Mr. Maduro's declaration as fraudulent, saying its candidate Edmundo Gonzalez won convincingly with 73.2% of the vote. Opinion polls ahead of the election suggested a clear victory for the challenger. Opposition parties had united behind Gonzalez in an attempt to unseat President Maduro after 11 years in power amid widespread discontent over the country's economic crisis. A heavy military and police presence was on the streets of Caracas with the aim of trying to disperse protesters and prevent them from approaching the presidential palace. Crowds of people chanted "freedom, freedom," and called for the government to fall. Now, footage showed tires burning on highways and large numbers of people on the streets, with police on motorbikes firing tear gas. In some areas, posters of President Maduro were ripped down and burned, while tires, cars, and rubbish were also set alight. Armed police, military, and left-wing paramilitaries who are sympathetic to the government clashed with protesters and blocked off many roads around the city center. Moving on to our next story, Mozambique has substantially won its $3.1 billion lawsuit at London's High Court against Emirate Lebanese shipbuilder Privinvest for allegedly paying bribes in relation to the decade-old tuna bond scandal. The Southeast African country sued Privinvest and its now late owner Iskandar Safa, alleging they paid bribes to Mozambican officials and Credit Suisse bankers to secure favorable terms on three projects in 2013 and 2014, including one designed to exploit Mozambique's tuna-rich coastal waters. Judge Robin Knowles on Monday ruled substantially in favor of Mozambique, which he said had been exploited by highly developed institutions and corporations that should have known better. In his writing ruling, the judge said Mozambique is entitled to payment of just over $825 million from SAFA and companies in the Privinvest group, plus an indemnity in relation to $1.5 billion it is liable to pay lenders and bondholders, less around $420 million already recovered by the country. The trial centered on deals struck by state-owned companies with Privinvest for loans and bonds from banks, including Credit Suisse for fishing boats and maritime security, projects backed by undisclosed state guarantees. But hundreds of millions of dollars went missing, and when the government debt came to light in 2016, donors such as the International Monetary Fund temporarily halted support, triggering a currency collapse, defaults, and financial turmoil. In the last of our top stories, rescuers continued to pull people from debris on Tuesday after multiple landslides triggered by torrential rains in the southern India killed 49 people. Many others are feared to be trapped under the debris, officials said, with rescue operations being hampered by bad weather. The landslides hit hilly villages in Kerala State's Wayanad district early Tuesday and destroyed many houses and a bridge, but authorities have yet to determine the full scope of the disaster. Rescuers were working to pull out people stuck under mud and debris, but their efforts were hampered by blockade roads and unstable terrain. PM Manoj, press secretary to the Kerala chief minister, said the landslides had killed at least 49 people so far. Television visuals showed rescue workers making their way through mud and uprooted trees to reach to those who have been stranded. Vehicles swept off the roads were seen stuck in a swollen river. Authorities mobilized helicopters to help with rescue efforts. An Indian army was roped in to build a temporary bridge after landslides destroyed a main bridge that linked the affected area. That concludes our top stories. On the other side of the break, we talk to Ari Hohat.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
Now, the African National Congress leagues have all supported and welcomed the decision to expel former President Jacob Zuma Here to bring us this story and more news from South Africa is Ari Hougaard. Good morning, Ari. It turns out we are having some difficulty connecting with Ari. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
We'll now try again if we can connect with Ari Hougaard, who's bringing us the latest news in South Africa. Good morning, Ari.
Yes, very good morning. Apologies for that short internet breach from my side. You talked about the ANC and former President Zuma. It's been a difficult situation for the ANC after the elections. That was quite difficult, of course, and there's a new government of national unity. So it took a while, but officially the former president expelled from the ANC. That is quite a big call. It's the first time it's ever happened with a president. So obviously the first reason is quite obvious, because he campaigned and formed part of Umkhonto we Sizwe, another different political party, and was still a member of the ANC. So it sounds logical for us that is the way to go. You can't be a member of two parties in that context. But importantly for the ANC is that all the leagues stand together. So you've got different leagues, the ANC Veterans League, the Youth League, and the Women's League. And normally they have a strong say also in what's happening in ANC politics. And it was, for instance, the youth leader, Colin Malachi, that said that it is actually a sad day, it's a painful day that the former president needs to be expelled for ill discipline. So also the Women's League also supported that he was expelled. Everybody will remember quite a few years ago when the former President Zuma was accused of rape charges. The Women's League actually stood by him. So there's many cases where the Women's League actually took sides for the former president. But now it's all behind the ANC. First, former President Zuma do have 21 days to appeal. He's been known to appeal all the court cases against him in other contexts. But let's see what happens there. But he's been a member for 64 years, so it is quite a long time. So it's an important situation for the ANC. They need to focus now on how to get the government of national unity together, with the MK party and the EFF being strong opposition at the moment.
I wonder how the appeal case would turn out, but you will keep us updated. Getting into your next story, Statistics South Africa announced that the South African population continued to grow and has now reached the 62 million mark.
Yes, quite a few people in South Africa and Southern Africa. So it is infrastructure is under pressure. So obviously, when populations grow like that, it does create challenges. But the reality is 835,000 people it grew with for the last year since July 2023. So it's 62 million people in South Africa, as you mentioned. Now it is quite a lot of people. It's a large youthful population. Nearly 30% of South Africa's population is under 15 years old. That's one of the informal settlements in Cape Town. So that is obviously one challenge for overpopulation, is that people just tend to have informal accommodation and houses. So that creates infrastructure challenges. And also the other reality is the life expectancy of people these days. So it is there's better medical care. People do live longer. The life expectancy in South Africa is now up to 66.5 years. So that is the official life expectancy, male and female together. For female, it's a little bit higher, 90 or 69.2. Men, it's 63.6. And it is in line with internationally. In Namibia, is a bit better than that, a bit higher than that. And a country like Japan is all up there by 85%. So life expectancy do play a role. Unemployment is the other challenge for South Africa at the moment, 32.9%, unfortunately. So the more people you have in a country, less work available. That creates infrastructure, that creates lots of challenges. So that's something that South Africa need to look at, but population is growing. So that is officially by Statistics South Africa.
In your next story, the South African Reserve Bank has expressed concern about the debt levels of government and also the debt exposure of financial institutions. Can you expand this?
Yes, it is concerning. It's actually three levels. It's the government, the households, and also the institutions. So firstly, it was the governor, Lesethu Kaya Raya Agu, apologies for that. It's the governor of the Reserve Bank. He implicated that it's growing too much, the national debt. Obviously, the government debt is very high. At the moment, it's 4.8 trillion South African rand. I'll say it slowly again, 4.8 trillion South African rand. So to put it into context, South Africa paid 385 billion rand interest a year just to service that debt. That's just interest paid. It's not paying down on that. And it adds up to 1 billion South African rand per day debt, only that you pay in interest. So that's a lot of money that South Africa need to pay back. Somebody's making money out of South Africa, of course, as well. But it's not only the South African government that's guilty, it's the households as well, 2.7 trillion debt collectively for all households in South Africa. So that's quite a high number. Obviously, that's a problem worldwide. It's not a problem just for South Africa. Global debt is a big problem. And then for the institutions, also the exposure to risk, it is also to do with climate change and all the lots of rain and things that happen in Cape Town recently as well. That also gives exposure to companies to get into debt. So at the moment, South Africa have 20% of the expenditure of the budget is just for debt. So that's quite a bit, and there's pressure on taxes and not enough taxes coming in. So it's a bit of a negative look on this, but they do have a plan. So the plan would be for a healthy economy. Eskom is working better, so there's light in the tunnel, hopefully.
Well, that's good to know that there is a plan in place. Now, getting into the last of your stories, the South African athletes continue to challenge for more medals at the Olympic Games in Paris.
Yes, I think everybody enjoying the Olympics. So also, obviously, Namibia, Vera Lusa and Halalaya Johannes, some of them still need to compete as well. South Africa, yes, there's 3 medals already. There's a team medal in sevens rugby. There's a cycling medal. Alan Halterby, he won in the cycling, the cross-country cycling, and then also, obviously, the swimmer, Tatiana Smith. So that's a big positive for South Africa. She's swimming again in the 200 meters breaststroke. So hopefully she can make South Africa proud. We've talked about that a lot in these programs. So sport do tend to pull South Africa together, like most nations as well. So it's nice to see there's here and there a new hero coming forward. There's still athletics coming. We know Wade van Niekerk had good success in the 400 meters in previous Olympic Games, but he'll be in the 200 and Sabine as well. So there's quite a few to look out for, but it's nice to see South Africa represented by 149 athletes there. So it's not only the swimming and the athletics, there's other events as well. So hopefully there will be another gold somewhere for South Africa. It is always that it makes the nation proud. And all the best for the Namibian athletes as well, especially Vera Lusa and Halalaya Johannes.
Yes, thank you for that. And Namibia will always root for South Africa. Thank you, Ari Ohad, for bringing us these stories from South Africa.
Thank you. It's a big pleasure and great best day for everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, let's take a look at our weather predictions before we return with economic news. Getting into our economic news, Nigeria's government gave approval on Monday for state oil company NNPC Limited to sell crude in the naira currency to the mega Dangote refinery effective immediately to help ease foreign exchange pressure. The $20 billion Dangote refinery, Nigeria's main oil refinery and built to be the largest in Africa at full throttle, started production in January but has struggled to secure enough crude to meet its 650,000 barrels per day capacity. Dangote previously had to buy oil on the international market, but it filed a complaint saying oil majors were blocking its access to locally produced crude by selling it above market prices or claiming it was unavailable, forcing the refinery to rely on expensive imports. The cabinet gave the nod for NNPC Limited to start selling crude to Dangote and other local refineries immediately in naira to ease pressure on foreign exchange. Zeg Abadeji, a cabinet member who is chairman of Nigeria's Federal Inland Revenue Service, told reporters. Getting to our next story, commercial transactions via the internet will be subject to regulation in Mozambique in order to ensure their control and contribution to public revenue. We have to introduce rules for e-commerce. Nowadays, everyone buys products via mobile phone, but there are no specific instruments for this activity, says Minister of Industry and Commerce Silvano Moreno. This month, the country presented its trade policy to the World Trade Organization, which is still to review it. The instrument, according to Noticias, includes provisions for e-commerce. Noticias reports that this information was provided by Silvino Moreno on the sidelines of the first ordinary session of the National Trade Facilitation Committee held last week in Maputo. The newly created body is responsible for assessing international trade issues, including imports and exports, to identify obstacles that may occur during commercial activities. Import and export activities must be regulated. Policies for these activities must be issued or proposed by the Ministry of Commerce, said Minister Moreno, stressing the need for Mozambique to look to the world and update its trade policy. Minister Moreno noted that Mozambique's last update occurred in 2017, and the WTO requires this to occur every 7 years. Let's take a look at our financial indicators. And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Thank you for joining Africa Good Morning on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Do remember that you can catch Africa Good Morning same time, same place all week. From me, Glenora Shipura. Until next time.